and welcome to Shell Point Today for Wednesday, November 9th. I'm Mary Kay Grimaldi.
And I'm Rich Nation. Coming up on today's show, Dave Singer will discuss with Teri Kollath about his academy class on photojournalism. Fitness instructor Ingrid Oliver will tell us about cane defense, and we'll get another What's Cooking installment from Ruth Deuber and David Lee.
But first, you don't want to miss tomorrow's special retirement celebration for Shell Point President Peter Dice. Join us as we honor him for his 31 years of service and stewardship to our community. The event will be held in the village church and a light meal will be served. There are two seatings, 11:30 a.m. and 4:30 p.m. Please make sure you RSVP using the invitation reply card sent in the campus mail. The event will be televised the following week on Shell Point TV Channel 12.
It's time once again for the annual Shell Point Open Golf Tournament. The difference this year is that it takes place at the all-new clubhouse, The Club. Hosted by Legacy Foundation, this year the proceeds will benefit Shell Point residents and the greater community through renovation of the Hope Healthcare Hospice Unit at Shell Point, located on the 4th floor of the Larson Pavilion. Tee time for this charity event is 7 a.m. for those who've already registered.
This Friday is Veterans Day. You're invited to join your Shell Point friends and neighbors to extend a heartfelt thank you to those who have served in the military. Join us in the Village Church at 2:15 p.m. as Cub Scout Pack 140 and Hope Healthcare Hospice Honor Guard present the colors, recognize veterans, and help make this a special time of remembrance. The national anthem and God Bless America will both be sung by all attendees, so come out and support our veterans.
David Singer will be presenting a two-part academy session entitled Photojournalism, the least of these. In this class, you'll travel with David into prison life in the U.S., Latin America, and Russia, relief work following hurricanes in Honduras, Houston, New Orleans, and Galveston, relief work among the poor in the Appalachia and with Hispanics in Northeast Los Angeles, and much more. To gain more insight on the class and Dave's life as a photojournalist for Christianity Today, the American Bible Society, and others, here's Teri Kollath with more.
Hi, I'm Teri Kollath. I'm here today with David Singer of Teledora. We're talking about a class he's presenting in 2 sessions in the Academy of Lifelong Learning. Thank you for joining me, Dave. Usually I talk to you about the writing classes you've provided for us. And I think it's so interesting that we're going to hear a little bit about your personal career and what you've done in the world, because it's so important right now to think about these topics and how do we get our information. So we call it photojournalism, the least of these. And we're doing 2 parts, and even the organizations you've worked for, Christianity Today, Prison Fellowship, the American Bible Society, must have given you an incredible background.
Yes. It exposed me to the needs around the world, tremendous human needs, but also the people that respond to these needs, that are moved to minister to these people. And it's a wonderful combination.
It is, and doesn't that make all the difference?
Oh, it does, and it gives hope. It's also interesting to me, Teri, that you find people in devastating situations, but if they have connections, there's a degree of happiness, a readiness to respond to generosity.
It's that human connection, isn't it?
Yes.
You know, a touch or a smile from somebody when you think.
A hand on the shoulder.
Yeah. To think we can pay people to treat people like that in their most vulnerable situations. But when you have someone who's moved to come on their own.
Yes.
And care for
and people with resources to devote themselves to these needs. It's a wonderful thing. I think of someone like Jack Eckert, a good Floridian, who was very involved with prison ministry. And I'll have some images of him to show. And the other beautiful thing about my work was starting with Christianity Today, where I was really the art director. And I did most of my own photography, or much of my own photography. But I got to work with the words and the display and the images to tell a story. So you're telling, it's storytelling with pictures and words.
And how inspiring that is. I just can't thank you enough.
Well, you're very welcome, Teri.
I know Dave as a writer. Dave is a photographer. Dave has a heart for what he's doing. You will feel so much when you come to these courses. Join us.
Fitness instructor Ingrid Oliver wants to show you how you can defend yourself, as demonstrated in her new class entitled Cane Defense. She even has a little demonstration for us.
Hi! Welcome to Cane Defense. My name is Master Ingrid Oliver, known around here as Coach Iggy, and I get to teach you all about how to defend yourself with a cane. Cane defense classes will be at the Island Health Club every Monday, 3:45 to 4:30 p.m. And every session will be 6 weeks, $55 per every 6-week session. The first one will be level 1, and the second one will be level 1 as well as level 2. Please look at your Health Connections for all the dates and exact details. I'd love to see you there.
Well, it looks like Ruth Deuber and David Lee are back in the kitchen for another installment of What's Cooking. This time, David is preparing a dish of Brussels sprouts and mushrooms. Sounds delicious? Well, just ask SPTV's Dan Philgreen, who was there to capture the cooking on camera, smell the cooking, and even taste the cooking. He'll tell you they are delicious.
Hello, I'm Ruth Deuber, and this is What's Cooking at Shelf Point. And my friend David is here, and he's going to do something very, very special with Brussels sprouts. Now, don't frown like I'm doing. You've got to try it before you say you don't like them. This is special. Okay.
Okay. Good morning. I'm going to show you how to make Brussels sprouts Steve's way. Steve's a dear friend, and while I love Brussels sprouts, every time I look at them in the store and I think, oh, by the time I cook the bacon, I steam the Brussels sprouts in that, boy, it's a lot of work. Well, Steve's way is the simple way, so I'm here to show you how to do it today. For the recipe, we're going to use 1 pound of Brussels sprouts. We're going to use 8 ounces of cremini mushrooms, 1 shallot diced, 4 ounces of pancetta, 2 to 3 ounces of either Romano or Reggio Parmesan cheese, grated, whichever one you have or whichever one you can buy, and pepper. Don't put any salt in here because there's already salt in the pancetta.
Oh yeah, it would be.
Yeah, so we don't want to add that. So that, and Steve's recipe calls for a handful of craisins. And I got to tell you, I put it just as Steve taught me the recipe. Margie wants 2 full hands full because she likes the craisin taste of it.
I like it too.
And it just adds a little different flavor to it. So I'm going to do something kind of unique today. I've actually got one in the oven so you can see the recipe, but we happen to have some guests here and have some food allergies. And I know some of our neighbors have food allergies too, so I'm just going to modify, I'll talk through you this, but I'm just going to modify this so that tonight for dinner, I can serve it for our friend. And I have one for us too, if Dan doesn't eat it all before we're through.
Okay.
How's that sound? So first thing we've got to do is turn the oven on to 400 degrees. Chop the bottom of the Brussels sprouts off and then half them. And you have to peel the outside of the Brussels sprouts off, but I find it easiest to do after you already cut them in half. They actually fall off then. So once again, this is 1 pound of Brussels sprouts. And like I said, the outer skin just falls right off. Ruth, this is one of those things that until I turned about 35 years old, I didn't like Brussels sprouts, but then I discovered asparagus and Brussels sprouts, and it's been a love affair ever since.
Well, they're really quite popular because I think almost every food magazine has a different way of fixing Brussels sprouts. So,
Well, yeah, and,
yeah, it's,
and
it's
once-
really a versatile vegetable. So.
and for the holidays, what I love about this recipe
Yeah.
is that it's just going to
Well,
bake.
this could be great. We could have it all mixed up and then put it in the oven before you're ready to eat. That's just
Absolutely.
wonderful.
Yeah. What I'm going to do at Thanksgiving time
Any
is
shortcut is
take
good.
the turkey out.
Yeah.
You got to let it rest for at least a half hour. These go in and cook. Then I'll get the potatoes ready,
Okay. Yeah.
and bingo, they're done. So that's my pound of Brussels sprouts, and here are my mushrooms. I already chopped some of them ahead. I always use the brush to clean them.
Yeah. You don't want to.
And I've done that ahead of time. So we want to eat the stems too, because they've got good flavor, but we want to cut the bottom off. Now, these are rather large. In fact, Ruth and I are talking about doing
Those
we're
are
going to do a
great ones for
stuffed
stuffing.
mushroom recipe
I
one
think
of these
our
days.
next couple episodes, I think we're going to do some stuffed mushrooms.
So I want to have them, about the size of the Brussels sprouts. No big deal here. Okay. So I now have my mushrooms in here. Now, I would normally be now chopping up one whole shallot to put in there, but she can't have onions. So we're going to leave that out today.
that's right.
And then keep Margie happy, I have 2 handsful of
Okay,
craisins.
that's great. Yeah.
But and she can't have cheese either or pancetta. So once again, I'm going to have one for me tonight, and we're just going to cook this with just the 2. And I like to put nice fresh ground pepper. Okay, so it calls for a quarter of a cup of olive oil, and I never measure anymore, Ruth, because it's something else I have to clean. And so you really just want to have enough to nicely coat everything. And even though olive oil is good for you, sometimes the less the
Yeah,
better.
You can, but they say eyeball it and see whether or not you've got enough.
Right.
Yeah. So all that's left to put in there now is your cheese and the pancetta and the craisins.
That's correct. I
Yeah.
would have put that in there, mixed it all up,
Uh-huh.
and this pan's
That's
a wonderful
right,
thing. Okay, we're just gonna now we're gonna use our hands. I've got to use my hands for this some of this stuff. How does that look to you, Ruth?
Yeah, by the time you get the other things in, you'd probably need a bigger bowl.
Yes,
to put in your oven.
we'll see the bigger bowl in a minute.
Right,
Yeah, yeah. And I've also done it in a shallow dish.
Uh-huh.
It won't take as much time, so you want to watch
Oh,
it that
okay.
way. So if you do it in a shallow baking dish,
Uh-huh.
it'll shorten the time.
Okay.
But you want to get that nice brown crust on it, so it's going to cook down a little bit. So
Okay.
there you have it, preheated 400-degree oven. The recipe calls for 45 minutes, but I've kind of learned a long time ago, I always set it for a few minutes less. So
Okay.
in 40 minutes, I check things.
Uh-huh. Okay. Yeah.
And depending on the size of your dish, you'll want to check it too.
Uh-huh,
So anyway, this will go in the oven, and I've got one done. Hang on.
Okay.
And there you have it, Ruth. It makes things a whole lot easier than cooking them. Look at that. All that.
Oh, look at that wonderful juice down there.
Yeah, so I like to stir it up.
Yeah.
And this may seem like a lot, but it'll keep for 2 or 3 days very nicely in your refrigerator. And just microwave a little bit. So Ruth,
Ooh, I can't wait.
And one for our producer, cameraman, Dan. Got to take good care of our Dan. So there you have it, Ruth. Makes Thanksgiving a lot easier.
That is delightful. It really is. I think even if you're a Brussels sprout hater, you're going to like this one because it's so good.
Right. So, all right. There you have it. That's what's cooking today at Shell
I'll
Point.
put it up on the website.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you, Ruth. Bye-bye.
And now it's time to cover all of today's happenings, Academy news, menus, and Village Church connections.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Happenings segment of Shell Point TV. I'm Dora Robbins and I'm here to tell you about all the activities today at Shell Point. We're going to start at 7:45 with the men's Bible study in the Offspring room on the island. At 8 o'clock we have men's round robin tennis at the tennis courts in the Woodlands. We also have at 8 o'clock pickleball and that's at the game court. At 8:45 we have Lily and Company Jewelers. It's their weekly service and that's in the Resident Activity Center. At 9 o'clock, we have watercolor group with Phil Hilton. That's in the art studio in the tunnel. At 9:15, we have card making and scrapbook group. That's in the tarpon room in the tunnel. We have ladies Bible study at 10 o'clock in the Osprey room. At 10 o'clock, we have men's match play tennis at the tennis courts at the Woodlands. At 10:15, we have the Model Yacht Sailing Club, and that's at Commons Lake at the Woodlands. At 11:30, we have a health connection. It's agility, balance, and flexibility. That's in the health club, and that's currently closed. At 12:45, we have strength and conditioning, and that's in the health club, and sign up is required. We have chess in the library lounge at 1 o'clock. And at 1:45, we have a health connection, balance, stability, and strength, and that's in the health club on the island. At 2:30, we have jazz and stuff, and that's in the Grand Cypress room at the Woodlands. And at 2:45, we have resident quarterly meeting, and that's at the church auditorium. And at 3 o'clock, we have Health Connection Pilates Bar Fusion, and that's in the health club. And at 4:30, we have indoor bocce, and that's at the health club on the island. At 5 o'clock, we have buffet dinner dance, and that's at the club that is currently full. And at 5 o'clock, we have singles table at the Crystal Dining Room. Church choir is at 5:45 at the church choir room. And the last activity for today is prayer and praise, and that's at 7:15 at the Village Church. Thanks, everybody, and we'll see you back here again tomorrow.
Hi, I'm Teri Kollath with your Academy information for Wednesday. At 9 o'clock, digital painting on the iPad will begin in the Teaching Center on the island for those who have signed up. At 10:15, the Legacy Seminar on Identity Theft, More Than a Financial Risk, will take place in the Village Church on the island. Everyone is welcome. At 1 o'clock, Intermediate Bridge, a new series of classes begins in the game room of the Woodlands, and sign-up is required. We have a couple new classes coming on Thursday that I'd like to tell you about. First of all, Academy on the Go number 5, Enter the World of Frank Lloyd Wright. We also have the new Apple Watch with Bruce Findlay of Sundial. Then we have iPad Facebook Basics with Meg Singer of Teledora.
Menus for Wednesday. In the Crystal Room, the Crystal Platter is beef enchiladas with refried beans and rice. For dinner, they are featuring their dinner buffet for $14.95. The soup of the day is chicken Florentine. In the Island Cafe, the sandwich special is a bacon blue cheeseburger with fries for $7.95. Dinner specials in the Palm Grill are root beer marinated pork tenderloin for $15.95 or Heavenly Hogfish for $17.95. All menus are available 24 hours a day at www.shellpoint.net.
Welcome to Village Church Connections. I'm David Pavey. A headline in the Washington Post caught my attention recently. The baby who was born twice. Now, how could that be, I wondered? How could a baby be born twice? It turns out that when baby Lindley Beamer was born on June the 6th, 2016, it wasn't the first time she'd been outside the womb. 16 weeks into her gestation, a routine ultrasound revealed a growth at the base of her tailbone. Doctors recognized it as a rare type of tumor that occurs in only one of every 40,000 pregnancies. If untreated, it would continue taking her blood supply and eventually cause heart failure. Then Jeff and Margaret Beamer sought advice from several specialists. Some suggested abortion, since the rapidly growing tumor would prove fatal for the baby anyway. But doctors at Texas Children's Hospital examined the tumor with cautious optimism. They agreed that in utero surgery would be required, but as it happened, two doctors there, Darrell Cass and Oluyinka Olutoye, had successfully done such a procedure once before. Now, at 20 weeks into the pregnancy, the tumor was almost as big as the fetus and putting considerable strain on Linley's heart. The surgeons recommended surgery at 24 weeks. At 23 weeks and 5 days, the tumor had grown large enough that the local specialist sent Beamer back to Texas Children's Hospital in Houston. Mother Margaret anticipated several days of checkups. Instead, Doctors Cass and Olutoye took her into surgery that very night with a team of 20 assistants for the 5-hour procedure. After making meticulous incisions into the uterus, they carefully pulled out the lower half of baby Linley's body. At one point, her heart stopped and was restarted. She also required a blood transfusion. Her little legs were the size of the surgeon's finger. After removing about 90% of the tumor, surgeons placed 1 pound 3 ounce Linley back into the womb, sealing the membrane to the uterus in a watertight fashion so it would continue to stretch as the pregnancy progressed. Mother Margaret was ordered to stay in Houston on bed rest for the remainder of the pregnancy. And to the relief and surprise of the doctors, baby Linley continued to grow. 12 weeks later, nearly 36 weeks into her pregnancy, Margaret Beamer, via a C-section, brought forth a healthy baby girl weighing 5 pounds 5 ounces. It was June the 6th, 2016. 8 days later, baby Linley underwent surgery to remove the rest of the tumor. And doctors will continue to monitor the baby who was born twice, if you please, all the way into adulthood. So far, she's progressing normally. Wonderful. Friends proposed to the parents that Linley celebrate 2 birthdays since she was born and then born again. Ah, yes, where have I heard of being born again? That's right, in the story of Jesus and the Jewish religious leader named Nicodemus, who had a private conversation with the Messiah under cover of darkness. Knowing what was in this man's heart, Jesus cut straight to the chase. I tell you the truth, unless you are born again, you cannot see the kingdom of God. What do you mean? Exclaimed Nicodemus. How can a man go back into his mother's womb and be born again? Well, by way of illustration, Jesus reminded him of an Old Testament story that Nicodemus would have known well. One day, as the Israelis were traversing the wilderness, they complained to God and Moses, "Why did you drag us out of Egypt to die in this God-forsaken country? No decent food, no water, we can't stomach this stuff anymore." And the stuff was the manna God had provided miraculously. So the Lord sent poisonous snakes amongst the people, and many were bitten and died. And then the people came to Moses and cried out, "We have sinned by speaking against the Lord and against you. Pray that the Lord will take away the snakes." So Moses prayed for the people. Then the Lord told him, "Make a replica of a poisonous snake and attach it to a pole. All who are bitten will live if they simply look at it." So Moses made a snake out of bronze and attached it to a pole. And then anyone who was bitten by a snake could look at the bronze snake and be healed. Those who looked were healed. Those who chose not to look died. Explaining how to be born again, Jesus told the Pharisee that as Moses lifted up the bronze snake on a pole in the wilderness, so he, Jesus, would be lifted up on a pole, the cross, so that all those who believed in him would not perish, but have eternal life. They would be born again. Nicodemus was a very religious man, but he still needed to be born again. I believe he was eventually born again by believing in Jesus, because after the crucifixion, he helped take Jesus down from that cross, embalm him, and lay his body to rest in a tomb. I remember the day when I was born again. I owed a debt I could not pay. Jesus paid the debt he didn't owe. I believed that the Son of God gave his life for me, so I could have forgiveness and enjoy living by faith in relationship with God. I trusted my past, present, and future to him. Perhaps you have too. The story of the baby who was born twice made me think. How does it strike you? And thank you for tuning in once again to Village Church Connections.
And that will certainly bring this Wednesday edition of Shell Point Today for November 9th to a close. Join us again tomorrow when we will feature a special video from Peter Deiss's October 2nd event at the Village Church, celebrating 30 years to the glory of God. We'll hear from those who've known Mr. Deiss over the years about how he has made an impact through his work at the church and in the community.
Join us for this and more on tomorrow's program. Until then, we hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.